The night was swallowed whole by the shroud of stars. A tapestry of cold flickers stretched across the obsidian sea of endless space. From that void, a tempest roared. A storm birthed not of weather, but of faith shattered and steel clashing in defiance of the Imperium's sacred light. The false gods had risen, their silhouette burning against the heavens, heralding an epoch of betrayal and doom. Upon the blasted surface of Istvan V, the air was choked with ash and ruin, acrid smoke curling like serpents from the broken carcasses of war engines and the fallen titans of the Legiones Astartes. The paladin echoes of the Emperor's will, now twisted and fractured, lay strewn amid ruined banners, stained crimson not only with the blood of traitors, but with the betrayal of brotherhood itself. Their once gilded armor, etched with the endless servitude to purity and honor, was scarred by the venom of treason as the legions turned their blades upon one another in a cacophony of death. The Serpent Lodge stood apart amidst this tableau of ruin, a bastion of cold faith and cold steel, its initiates cloaked in the bitter resolve of those who knew the serpentine path of patience and silence. Draped in the shadows cast by the fallen, the Lodge's acolytes observed the unfolding apocalypse with unblinking eyes, the venom of loyalty seeping deeper into wounds that festered across the veins of the Imperium's body. Within the creaking fortress of shattered dreams, Archon Tarsus knelt beneath the broken banners of the now-defunct Legio Serpentis, his voice a whispered litany woven from the marrow of despair and hope intertwined. The false gods walked among us, their claws sunk deep into the armor of our faith. We are the hand that must cleave the serpent's tongue, lest it poison all in its wake. The echo of that prayer was answered by the distant thunder of bolters and the scream of chainswords, as the legacies of the Dark Mechanicum and the Arch-Traitor legions, sons of Horus, Night Lords, Death Guard, unleashed the hellish fury of betrayal upon Istvan's shattered plains. Among the screams of the dying rose the once unbreakable chorus of brotherhood, now sundered by suspicion and venom. Whispers passed from lip to lip. The false gods' lies had dripped heavy, their promise of supremacy and salvation seducing the hearts of the most storied warriors. The heresy was not merely in the turning of blades, but in the corruption seated deep within the soul, the poisoning of purpose. The skies themselves wept with fire as orbital bombardments seared the barren moonscape. Thunderhawk gunships carved skyward trails of flame, their bellies disgorging squads of loyalists, hell-bent to stem the tide of mutiny. So it was that the air was rent with the screams of the dying and the solemn prayers of those who fought for honor, not conquest. In the chaos, one figure stood unwavering, Brother Captain Varial of the Luna Wolves, his helm stained with the soot of 1,000 battles, yet unyielding in his gaze. His voice carried over the din, a herald of relentless faith. We fight not for vengeance, but for the Emperor's eternal light. Faith is our shield, honor our sword. His words cut through despair like a blade forged in sacred fires, rallying those still bound to the Emperor's true will. Yet even as he turned the tide in pockets of despair, the corruption spread like a curse. The serpent's fangs dug deep. Whisperers in the dark sowed doubt, turning brethren to enemies. The once golden halls echoed with cries of betrayal, each death a dirge for the Imperium's fractured soul. Tarsus felt the burden of prophecy weigh heavy upon him. ... Across the charnel fields, the serpents stirred, their eyes burning with the cold certainty of predation. As the false gods claimed victory after victory, those who remained faithful found solace only in the gleam of the Emperor's blade, forged from the fires of sacrifice and unyielding will. And yet, amid the darkness, a subtle melody of hope whispered through the veins of the bloodied and broken. A promise that no matter how deep the serpent's poison, the light of the Emperor's truth would forever burn, an eternal flame against the encroaching night. The Serpent Lodge withdrew into shadow, their purpose grim and undying, to root out the false god's spawn and to remind the galaxy that even in despair, there lies the unquenchable spark of faith. And in that silence between the storms of battle, the cosmos itself seemed to hold its breath, a witness to the eternal struggle, a war not merely of arms, but of souls. For in the echoes of that tragedy, it was not victory nor defeat that carved the path forward, but the enduring light of the Emperor's will. Faint, fragile, yet unbroken beyond time. The ground beneath Istvan V was slick with the blood of saints and sinners alike, where the iron echoes of war gods clashed within the halls of shattered resolve. Smoke and fire, twisted like the writhing coils of the dark serpent, foretold by forbidden prophecy. Here, where the traumas of treachery was etched in the very stones, the Serpent Lodge moved as shadows gliding past the dying light of a world on the edge of oblivion. Within the labyrinthine catacombs, beneath the blasted surface, Archon Tarsus bore the weight of the Emperor's silent judgment. His hand rested upon the hilt of his relic blade, its edge kissed by the fires of 1,000 battles. The steel sang a mournful hymn, a requiem for the brothers lost and the future yet unborn. The serpent's corruption is no mere poison of flesh, he murmured, voice gravel-wrought, yet resolute. It seeps into the very spirit of man, twisting kin to foes, faith to blasphemy. Around him, the acolytes of the lodge knelt in grim communion, their faces masked beneath visors, reflecting the ruin around them. Their purpose was as cold and unyielding as the serrated edges they wielded. Cleanse the corruption, burn the heresy, and sanctify the blood-soaked soil with the purity of death. These were no mere soldiers, but singers of the Emperor's dark liturgy, their souls bound in eternal service to a cause greater than death. Outside, the sun, smothered beneath a shroud of ash, struggled weakly against the choking darkness. Thunder erupted from overhead as the skies themselves seemed to rend with the fury of celestial war. The once proud Legio Serpentis, its ranks ravaged and betrayed, fought desperately to reclaim their lost honor. Their banners, torn and blackened by the fires of treason, still carried the weight of ancient oaths whispered in the sacred forges of Terra. But the false god's shadow loomed, a malignant eclipse upon the heart of their faith. Steel met steel in cruel symphony. The roars of the Night Lords, twisted by their own nightmarish cruelties, shattered the silence with savage fervor. Death Guard plodded through the carnage, their very presence a miasma of decay and ruin. a testament to the dark promises of Nurgle's gifts. The sons of Horus, once the Emperor's finest, now crowned in treachery, bore the mark of their falling, like a blight upon the stars themselves. Every death was a sacrament twisted, every victory a prayer lost to despair. Yet from the abyss rose the stubborn glow of resistance. The Luna Wolves rallied beneath Variel's banner, his voice a clarion call through the chaos. "We stand unbroken," he declared, "not as kin divided, but as heralds of the Emperor's final judgment. Though the serpent coils and strikes, our faith shall be the blade that cleaves the darkness." As the tide of battle shifted, so too did the cost become written in the shattered bodies and bleeding spirits of the warriors who fought within it. The Serpent Lodge moved silent and unseen, stabbing at the shadows, tearing the venom from within. They sought no glory, but the cleansing flame of duty. Their sacrifice, the unseen scar upon the wound of humanity. Tarsus paused beneath a shattered spire, his thoughts echoing the grim truth of the war that was not their own, but had become theirs. The false gods have danced their deadly game, their lies dripping like venom upon the heart of the Imperium. Yet in this darkness, we kindle the Emperor's will. Though we fall, the serpent shall never choke the light entirely. The heavens wept fire and ash, and the bloodied soil drank deep of brotherhood betrayed. But within the mournful silence between eruptions, the enduring song of sacrifice rose, a hymn to those who bore the endless burden, who stood beyond hope, beyond fear. And so as the false gods fell to their own hubris, the Serpent Lodge remained, a shadow eternal, a testament to the unyielding flame of loyalty amid the dying embers of a galaxy aflame. For in the tragedy of false gods, it was not the end, but the beginning of a legend, written upon scars and memory. A legend where even in the darkest night, the Emperor's light refused to be extinguished. The ground trembled beneath the thunder of engines, iron behemoths lurching forward like extinct gods awoken from a nightmare of betrayal. Around them, the scars of war etched deep chasms in the ravaged landscape of Istvan V, craters filled with the shattered remnants of ancient honor and shattered faith. The fields echoed with a discordant symphony. Bolters spat death, chainswords ripped flesh and metal alike, and the anguished cries of the fallen rose as a chorus of damnation and despair. From these horrors walked the Legio Serpentis, once proud bearers of the Emperor's light, now fractured ghosts, pursuing a hymn of vengeance and redemption. Their armor, dulled and stained by unending battle, gleamed faintly beneath the smothering miasma of war, each sigil battered, each marking smeared with the blood of brother and betrayer. Among them moved Archon Tarsus, a figure carved of stone and iron will, his eyes aflame with the resolve forged in the crucible of agonizing loyalty. "The serpent's tongue may slither with lies," he intoned, voice reverberating like the toll of a funeral bell. "But we are the blade forged to split its venom, the flame that will reduce its shadow to ash." His words were both command and prayer, uttered not from hope, but from the solemnity of duty. Around him, his kin answered, not with the cry of war, but with the weighty silence of those who carry the dead within their hearts. The sky, rent by the fires of orbital bombardment, cast an infernal glow upon the battlefield's grim theater. In the distance, the hulking forms of the traitorous legions marched like omens of doom, sons of Horus, draped in lies, their blades dripping with fraternal blood, night lords prowling with preternatural savagery, Death Guard pausing only to spread their plague-born blight. Their unity was a mockery, their cause a desecration of the sacred. They fought not for honor, but for the false gods whispered to them in the dark. Within the chaos stood Brother Captain Varial, a beacon amidst the storm. His voice rang above the clash, a vow etched in steel and sacrifice. We stand unshaken in the Emperor's light. Though our enemies wear the faces of brothers, their souls are shackled by the lies of the serpent. We shall purge this heresy with fire and blood, or fall beneath its shadow. And fall they did, one by one, saints cast down by the twin specters of sorrow and vengeance. The Serpent Lodge moved like wraiths among the carnage, bearing witness to the agony of a galaxy's fracture. They struck with quiet precision amidst the chaos, each kill a solemn sacrifice, each death a step closer to cleansing the rot. Deep beneath the shattered ruins, where the light of war could not reach, Tarsus knelt in reflection. His thoughts were daggers aimed at the heart of despair, sharpened by the faces of the fallen, heroes burned into memory by flame and shadow. The false gods have made their claim, but their victory is hollow, he whispered. For even in the darkest betrayal, the Emperor's light endures. It is a fire that no serpent's treachery can truly dim. The land around them was a graveyard, every breath a prayer, every silence a requiem. Yet, amid the bitter dusk of war, the glow of the Serpent Lodge remained steadfast, a silent vow etched into the annals of eternity. The saga of the false gods was a dirge for the lost, but also a testament to those who stand unbroken, the eternal flame that defies the consuming night. In the aftermath, as the heavens burned and the last echoes faded, one truth endured. The light of the Emperor, scorched, wounded, but unyielding, would shine beyond the grave of false gods and bitter kin, eternal as the stars themselves. Beneath the bloodied sky, where ash fell like sorrow from the heavens, a silence grew. A silence born not of peace, but of a wound too deep to heal. The remnants of the Serpent Lodge gathered among the ruins, their forms half swallowed by shadow and dust, the echoes of battle still ringing in their souls. Their armor bore the scars of 100 deaths. Their eyes held the cold fire of unyielding purpose. Archon Tarsus stood alone upon the raised summit of what had once been a fortress of faith. He gazed down at the shattered remnants of brotherhood below, bones and memories intertwined in the land's eternal tomb. The air hung heavy with the scent of burnt iron and lost hope, a testament to the cost of treachery that had sundered legions and souls alike. The serpent's coil tightens ever around the heart of the Imperium, Tarsus intoned, voice low and measured as a funeral bell. Yet from this crucible of fire, we shall forge a blade incorruptible, a judgment that cannot be swayed by the venom of false gods. His words were a light in the darkness, a summons for those still bound to the Emperor's truth. Around him, the acolytes of the lodge bowed their heads, pledging anew their souls to the flame of loyalty. Theirs was a charge unbroken by defeat, undimmed by sorrow. a solemn vow to cleanse the galaxy's wound where Serpent's poison had seeped. Far across the desolation, the shattered echoes of past betrayals roared like distant thunder. The traitor legions, broken but not defeated, retreated into the depths of space, their shadows stretching like a curse beyond the stars. Yet even as they fell back into shadow, the stain they left upon the Imperium was a wound that time itself might never fully close. Among the silent witness of the stars, the Serpent Lodge moved with silent grace, their blades kissed by sacred purpose. They were hunters in the night, stalking the lingering corruption, hunting the sowers of discord and death. Each strike was cold and final, a prayer offered with steel and intention against the liars who dared wear the mask of brotherhood. Within that solemn twilight was a spark, a promise whispered by those who had lost all but their faith. Faith not in legends or false promises, but in the unshakable light of the Emperor. A light not always bright, but eternal and resolute. And so the Serpent Lodge endured, a shadow upon the shadow, a flame against the endless dark. For in the silence that followed the fall of false gods, the greatest truth remained. The Emperor's light endures beyond betrayal, beyond death, beyond the fading stars. Thus we stand, Tarsus whispered into the night, guardians of that eternal flame, unbroken and unyielding. The serpent may slither yet, but its darkness shall never claim the dawn. The cosmos held its breath, and in that breath, the promise of redemption echoed through time eternal. The alleys of war wound endlessly beneath skies burned red with the fires of 1,000 dying suns. In these forsaken ruins, where the blood of heroes and traitors mingled indistinguishably with the soil, the Serpent Lodge wove its silent path, specters of retribution in service to a shattered Imperium. Each step echoed with the weight of broken oaths and shattered dreams, yet carried the unyielding fire of indomitable faith. Archon Tarsus moved with the somber grace of a priest of war, his gaze sharp beneath the visor stained by the chaos of battle. Around him, the acolytes of the lodge whispered litanies in the dead tongues of forgotten worlds, their voices woven into the tapestry of relentless purpose. They were the scythe of vengeance, the blade that cut through shadows to strike at the serpent's heart, wherever it might coil. Beyond the shattered walls of the once proud fortress, the desolation stretched as far as the eye could pierce. Ashes of empire and empire's betrayal burned in every crater, every broken relic of a glory lost. The legions who had once pledged themselves to the Emperor's light now lay divided in ruin, their banners tattered, their honor sullied beneath the cold gaze of stars, indifferent to mortal strife. The false gods who had fractured the legions were no longer gods, but echoes, shattered reflections of pride and power twisted to ruin. Their ambition had torn a wound through the fabric of humanity's destiny, and the Serpent Lodge was the Emperor's unforgiving hand to mend it. For faith was not blind submission, but the steel resolve to stand when light waned, to fight when hope seemed extinguished. Tarsus's blade sang as it cleaved through the last vestiges of heresy. Hymn of cold judgment in the cathedral of war. The Imperium is eternal, he pronounced, voice a solemn vow carried on the bitter winds, and no darkness, no lie shall ever imprison its light. The cost was etched in every fallen brother, every sacrifice paid in blood and flame. Yet from these losses bloomed a truth undying, a legacy forged in fire, bound by loyalty, and sealed with sacrifice. The Serpent Lodge would carry this legacy through the ages, guardians of a faith tested by fire and shadow. As the night deepened and the stars wheeled overhead, a quiet settled, a silence heavy with remembrance and resolve. The false gods had been cast down, their blasphemies drowned in the blood rain of battle. Yet the war was eternal, and the Serpent Lodge would endure as the Emperor's blade against the darkness. And in that enduring silence, the light of the Emperor burned on, an ember amid the ashes, eternal and unyielding, a beacon for all who still believed. The void held its breath as the stars themselves watched the end of innocence. On the desolate plains of Istvan V, the true cost of defiance was written in blood and fire, a testament to the tragic folly of gods who had forgotten the price of betrayal. The legions, once bound by the unbreakable chains of brotherhood, were now fractured shards of a broken mirror, reflecting only pain, loss, and ruin. Amid the ruin, the Serpent Lodge moved like a vengeful shadow, spectral and unrelenting. Their forms flowed silent and swift between the shattered wreckage of war engines, their every movement a prayer, and every strike an act of unyielding faith. Archon Tarsus, the steely-eyed warden of their cause, led them with relentless purpose, a beacon amidst the storm of corruption. "In the Emperor's name, we rend the serpent's coils," he proclaimed, his voice a grim echo through the smoke. "For though false gods may rise, their dominion is but a fleeting shadow. The Emperor's light endures beyond their fall." The battle around them writhed and twisted, a living beast of flame and steel. Desperation etched into the faces of the loyalist survivors, fury burning in the eyes of the traitors, each soul caught in the vortex of a war not chosen, but inherited. The cries of fallen champions rose as a chorus, a lament to a past forever lost to the unforgiving tides of rebellion. With every step, the Serpent Lodge carved a testament of justice into that forsaken world. Their blades, the sharpened will of an empire broken, but unbowed. They fought to cleanse the taint, to restore the honor sullied by treason, knowing well the bitter truth, that victory would never be absolute, only purchased with sacrifice beyond reckoning. And yet, even as death stalked among them, a fragile hope stirred, the amber of remembrance, the unwavering faith that no darkness could fully claim the heart of the Imperium. For the true power of the Emperor was not found in might alone, but in the unwavering spirit of those who stood as his eternal guardians. As the fires dimmed and the last echoes of conflict faded into the void, the Serpent Lodge gathered, scarred, weary, yet unbroken. They stood sentinel over the wreckage, shadows cast long by the dying light, their silent vow a promise that the false gods' legacy would be undone by the enduring flame of loyalty. And so, beneath the indifferent gaze of the stars, the Emperor's light endured, scorched and tested, but eternal, a flame against the encroaching night and the serpent's endless coil. The echo of war faded into a hollow stillness, as Istvan V's skies darkened. The last embers of battle, flickering like dying stars in a forgotten constellation. The ground, scarred and soaked with the blood of countless warriors, bore silent witness to a tragedy etched into the marrow of the Imperium itself. Here, where brother had turned upon brother, the Serpent Lodge remained, guardians of a legacy forged in fire and tempered by unyielding faith. Archon Tarsus stood at the precipice of ruin, his gaze cast toward the endless expanse of stars, where destinies were writ in the cold light of distant suns. The false gods are fallen, he intoned, voice low as a funeral hymn, but their shadow lingers still. The serpent's bite may poison, but it shall never quell the flame. Around him, the acolytes of the lodge knelt in solemn silence, their hearts bound to a cause greater than vengeance, a devotion to the eternal truth that no heresy could extinguish. Their blades, resting now, had sung pains of justice through the chaos, their very lives a sacrifice wrought in service to humanity's salvation. Beyond the shattered world, the traitorous legions retreated into the void, their fury spent but their malice far from quelled. The wounds they left behind would fester in the shadows, a reminder that the war was never truly over, only biding time before the next betrayal hastened its dark return. But the Serpent Lodge stood unbroken, an unyielding bulwark against the gathering storm. For in their hearts burned the Emperor's fire, a light untouched by shadows, a beacon to guide the lost and weary through the vast darkness of the cosmos. And in the quiet that followed, beneath the cold gaze of the eternal stars, a promise echoed through the void. A promise born of sacrifice, loyalty, and unending faith. That no matter the weight of the serpent's coil, the Emperor's light would endure, eternal as the stars themselves, forever guarding the soul of humanity against the night. The war drum stilled, leaving a heavy silence weighed down by the ghosts of 1,000 fallen. On the shattered plains where once proud legions had clashed as gods brought low by betrayal, the Serpent Lodge stood as an unyielding testament to faith, forged in flame and shadow. They were the last flame flickering defiantly against an endless night, a vigil kept by those who had sacrificed all for a future forged in the Emperor's name. Archon Tarsus surveyed the desolation, his armor worn by the heat of countless battles, his soul tempered by sorrow and unbreakable resolve. The echoes of the past whispered to him, a chorus of fallen brothers whose sacrifice sang a dirge of warning and hope intertwined. The serpent's venom ran deep, but not so deep as to snuff the light we bear, he spoke, voice heavy with the weight of memory and duty. Around him, the acolytes knelt reverently, their eyes stealing against the bitter winds that carried the scent of death and ash. Their blades rested. Yet their spirits remained sharp and unbroken, their purpose a silent oath that would endure beyond the fading echoes of this calamitous chapter. The legions of traitors had receded into the void, their shadows lengthening into the darkness between the stars. Their mutiny had fractured the Imperium's soul, but it had not destroyed it. For every lie twisted by the false gods, there was a truth tempered in sacrifice. For every betrayal born of ambition, a loyalty stronger than steel. In that twilight, the Serpent Lodge gathered one last time amidst the ruins, their silence a prayer, and their presence a benediction upon the bleeding world. Their charge was grim, their task eternal, to stand as the Emperor's unyielding shield, to guard the remnants of faith against the Serpent's endless coil. And when the stars wheeled overhead and the cosmos held its breath, the final truth was clear. Though gods may fall and empires waver, the light of the Emperor endures. It burns beyond betrayal, beyond death, eternal as the void, steadfast as the undying stars. Thus, in the silence that followed, the saga of the false gods was etched into the annals of legend, not as an end, but as a beginning. For in every shadow cast by treachery, the flame of loyalty burns brighter still, an eternal beacon to all who stand unbroken beneath the Emperor's light. The final embers of the battle burnt low, beneath a sky mirroring the turmoil of countless souls. In the aftermath, the Serpent Lodge moved through the wasteland, silent, solemn, relentless. Their presence was a whisper against the storm, a reminder that even amid ruin, the Emperor's justice was not extinguished, but reborn in sacrifice. Archon Tarsus stood alone upon a fractured spire, the ruins sprawling like a desecrated cathedral around him. His eyes, cold and unyielding, traced the paths etched by war, the scars of betrayal engraved in every shattered bone, every fallen standard. Yet in that desolation, he found the seed of unbreakable hope. The false gods have broken faith. He spoke without turning, his voice carrying the weight of a grave and sacred truth. But the Emperor's light is a fire that no tempest can quench. Our purpose endures beyond the ashes. Around him, the acolytes knelt, eyes lowered. Their armor their solemn litanies wove through the bitter winds, an eternal vow to root out heresy and defend the fragile dawn against the Leviathan of darkness. They were the Emperor's silent watchers, unyielding, unfaltering. The traitor legions, though driven back into the black void, planted seeds of shadow that would sprout in the womb of the cosmos. Yet for every shadow born, the Serpent Lodge would answer, sharpened blades raised not in hatred, but in sacred judgment. Their war was beyond vengeance. It was a redemption carved in steel and blood. In the quiet that followed, the universe seemed to hold its breath. The fall of false gods was not an end, but a testament, a solemn monument to the cost of betrayal and the unyielding strength of loyalty. And at the heart of this tale, burning bright against the impermanent darkness, was the eternal truth. The Emperor's light endures, not as a flame easily snuffed, but as a star that will outlast empires, heresies, and the twisting coils of the serpent for all time. So beneath the indifferent gaze of the eternal stars, the Serpent Lodge swore their charge anew, to carry the Emperor's light into the dark until the end of days. The final echoes of war faded, but the silence was not surrender. It was the breath before the eternal vigilance. The Serpent Lodge moved through a galaxy scarred by betrayal and sacrifice, a shadow cast long over the ruins of once glorious legions. Their purpose was crystal as the starlight cutting through the void, to hunt the serpent's spawn and cleanse the worlds defiled by the false god's lies. Archon Tarsus, his armor etched with the dust of 1,000 battles, carried the weight of countless fallen comrades as a sacred burden. His voice, when it came, was a solemn vow cast into the endless night. We walk in the Emperor's shadow, wielding his will as blade and shield. Though the serpent's coil may writhe across the stars, it shall never shackle the light we bear. Among his chosen, the acolytes of the Serpent Lodge moved with ghostly purpose, seekers of truth in the lies sown by the heretic legions. They were the Emperor's sword unbent, the lingering hope of a galaxy teetering upon the edge of oblivion. Every strike was a prayer, every breath a sacrament in the endless liturgy of war. Far beyond, the traitor legions slunk into darkness, their mutiny a stain on the annals of history, but never the final word. For in the hearts of the faithful burned a fire no treachery could quench, fierce, unwavering, eternal. Theirs was a flame kindled by sacrifice and forged in unbreakable loyalty. And so the Serpent Lodge continued their silent crusade, guardians of an empire shattered yet unyielding, a testament to the unbreakable bond between humanity and its emperor. In their hands rested the hope of a future born not of simple victory, but of enduring faith and relentless sacrifice. As the stars wheeled eternally overhead, the cosmic dance of light and shadow played on. In that eternal struggle, one truth remained. No serpent's coil would ever quench the Emperor's light. It would shine forevermore, an immortal beacon guiding the faithful through the darkest night until the dawn of all things. And in the silent aftermath, amid the ruin and remembrance, the galaxy whispered its oldest promise, that even in the shadow of false gods, loyalty is eternal, and the Emperor's light endures beyond all. From the ashes of betrayal, the Serpent Lodge emerged as a living testament to the price of faith and the resolve of those who walk the Emperor's unforgiving path. Ostensibly invisible beneath their cold visors, the faces of its warriors bore the scars of war and loss, each a silent vow etched in flesh and steel, a mosaic of broken loyalty and unfaltering hope. The desolation of Istvan V lay stretched before them, no longer a battlefield, but a sacred ground, steeped in the blood of brother against brother. Here, where the hymns of loyalty had turned to dirges, Tarsus raised his voice once more, a beacon piercing the heavy twilight. In this crucible of flame and shadow, the serpent's fangs have bitten deep. Yet from this wound we forge strength, and from this darkness the indomitable light of the Emperor shall blaze anew. Around him the acolytes knelt, their armor gleaming dully in the fading glow of war's ruin. Their blades, razor-thin deadly instruments, were more than mere weapons. They were keys to redemption, capable of severing both flesh and the poison of heresy. Each strike was an act of holy defiance against the deceivers and false prophets who sought to unravel the Imperium's core. The traitors had scattered, their blasphemies echoing faintly among the stars, but always looming, a specter of chaos lurking beyond the horizon of faith. Yet the Serpent Lodge held fast, their eternal vigil unwavering as the night that cloaked the cosmos. Their mission was neither to grant mercy nor to seek glory, but to preserve what remained untainted, the eternal bond between humanity and its emperor. In the chill silence that settled like a mantle, the whispered prayers of the fallen mingled with the steely resolve of the living. It was a litany of remembrance, sacrifice, and unyielding devotion. For in this eternal struggle, there was no reckoning but loyalty, no salvation but duty. And when the final light fades from the stars, when the last echoes of battle have long since settled into cosmic dust, the flame of the Emperor will still burn, unbroken, inviolate, eternal. A light against the encroaching dark, a promise that the serpent's coil can tighten, but never fully extinguish. Thus, the saga of the false gods closes not with an end, but with a solemn beginning, an unending war where faith remains the ultimate weapon, and the Emperor's light endures beyond all time. The stars watched silently from their eternal vantage, silent witnesses to the agony and valor carved into the fabric of the galaxy's shattered legacy. In the blackness beyond, the Serpent Lodge moved as shadows woven from resolve, a steadfast guardian against the eternal threat of betrayal and heresy that lurked in the dark. Their footsteps were silent prayers, their weapons a testament to unyielding faith, each chosen to pierce the veil of lies spun by the false gods. Archon Tarsus led them through the desolation, a master of shadow and steel, his mind a forge of purpose. His voice, when it broke the heavy silence, was a vow etched in the eternity of night. The serpent's tongue may whisper of salvation, but we know its venom is death. Our course is carved from purity, our resolve unbreakable, for the Emperor's truth endures beyond the reach of lie and betrayal. Among a silent coterie of loyalists, the Lodge's acolytes moved like specters, shadows of wrath and redemption combined, creeping through the wreckage of loyalty lost and faith tested. Their blades, blessed and cold, sliced through deception as a priest's prayer cuts through darkness. They fought not for victory alone, but to reclaim the untainted essence of humanity in a universe betrayed by its gods. The traitor legions receded into the shadows of history, spent yet dangerous still. The scars they left behind labored as eternal landmarks of treachery, warnings carved by blood on the tapestry of time. But the true strength of the Emperor's followers was not in vengeance alone, but in the unwavering belief that the light of the Emperor, dim as it might seem, would forever pierce the blackest night. In the quiet aftermath, the cosmos itself seemed to breathe, waiting for the dawn that the Serpent Lodge knew would never truly come, but longed for nonetheless. An enduring promise that loyalty, sacrifice, and faith would outlast even the stars in their cold vigil. Their purpose was unshakable, carrying the torch of justice through the dark, unwavered by the serpent's coil. For the Emperor's light was eternal, a shining beacon that refused to flicker, no matter how deep the darkness or how fierce the heresy. And so, within the dying embers of a broken war, the Lodge's silent vow persisted, to fight beyond the mortal realm, guarding that eternal flame, the unbreakable bond between humanity and the divine light that guides it, forever unyielding against the encroaching night. The veldt was silent beneath the oppressive twilight. broken only by the distant crackle of dying fire and the solemn whisper of the wind that carried the scent of ash and lost souls. Istvan V, a world forever marked by the venomous coils of betrayal, lay bathed in the cold light of a fractured moon as the Serpent Lodge moved through the ruin with the inexorable grace of death itself. Each step was measured, deliberate, a sacred cadence echoing the memory of kin lost and the burden of justice unfinished. Archon Tarsus, the sword and shield of the lodge, raised his visor against the chilling dusk. His gaze pierced the horizon where shattered banners flapped like wounded spirits, and the ruins of once glorious war machines stood as silent testament to the Emperor's shattered dream. "Here lies the crucible," he intoned softly, "where faith was tested and brotherhood torn asunder. Yet from these ashes, the filaments of hope endure. Fragile, yes, but unyielding." The acolytes knelt around him, their unspoken prayers woven deep into the fabric of their mission. Their blades, etched with consecrated glyphs, were instruments of sacred retribution, their strikes not of wrath, but purifying fire. They were the unseen atonement, the echoes of an empire's unwavering will cast into shadow. Every wound they inflicted upon the serpent's spawn was a litany written in steel and blood, an unending prayer for redemption. Beyond the shattered battlefield, the traitor legions faded like ghosts into the void, leaving behind the stench of treachery and the cold scars of fractured loyalty. Sons of Horus, Night Lords, Death Guard, all cast down from the Emperor's light into darkness they had sought to claim. Their blasphemies, thunderous and bitter, would resonate through the eons, but they were no gods, only fallen angels twisted by ambition and despair. In this twilight of the false god's reign, the Serpent Lodge endured, an unbroken sentinel, guarding the flickering flame of humanity's salvation. From their ranks sprang the hope of an imperium battered, but unyielded, a promise carved from sacrifice and tempered in the crucible of war. And when the last echoes faded into timeless silence, when even the stars seemed to mourn the cost born of betrayal, one truth remained eternal and unchallengeable. No serpent's coil could ever extinguish the Emperor's light. It shone on, forever a beacon against encroaching darkness, eternal as the void itself. Thus closed the chapter of false gods, a mournful dirge, an enduring testament, a solemn covenant whispered on the breath of eternity. The mists of war slowly receded across the devastated landscape, revealing the stark truth beneath the veils of flame and smoke. A galaxy rent asunder by treachery so profound it threatened to rend the very soul of humanity. But within this crucible of despair, the Serpent Lodge endured, not as mere survivors, but as eternal sentinels woven from the armored resolve of those who chose duty above all else. Archon Tarsus stood amid a circle of shattered relics, the fallen banners of legions once united, now stained with the blood of brothers. His voice rang out, deep and unyielding, a voice forged in trials beyond imagining. Though the serpent's venom courses through the veins of the heretic, the light of the Emperor will purge such poison. We are the blade that severs the serpent's coil, the flame that cleanses the taint. Around him, his acolytes rose like specters, Silent warriors whose faith was sharper than their blades, whose sacrifice was woven into the fabric of the Imperium's survival. They walked the path of shadows, hunters of corruption, bearers of a sacred burden that transcended life and death, victory and defeat. Through ash and ruin, they carried forth the Emperor's will, relentless as the stars themselves. The traitor legions had been driven back, their ambitions dashed upon the anvil of loyalty, yet the scars they left would echo long, a grievous wound that time might never fully heal. The horrors of Istan V were but a prelude to the endless war that would rage as long as there was breath and blood to spill. A war of faith against rebellion, of light against encroaching darkness. Within that ceaseless struggle, the Serpent Lodge found its purpose eternal, a flame burning bright amid the void, unquenched by the serpent's lies. Their story was one of sacrifice and solemn remembrance, a litany written not in grand victories, but in the unyielding commitment to stand against the night. And as the stars wheeled overhead, cold and distant, the immortal truth remained unshaken. The Emperor's light endures, a perpetual beacon in a universe of shadows, a fire that no false god can truly extinguish. Thus ends this chapter of the false gods, the tale of treachery and loyalty intertwined, of darkness confronted by an unbroken flame, eternal as the Emperor's boundless will. The embers of Istvan V's infernal twilight bled into the endless night like the final exhalations of a dying star. Faint, fragile, yet imbued with a fierce glow that no darkness could fully consume. The air hung heavy with the scent of cindered hope and sacrificial fire, a testament to the cost of faith shattered and reforged amid the ruins of brotherhood sundered. Here, where the smoke of betrayal rose like a pall, the Serpent Lodge bore their solemn vigil, a flame kindled not in triumph, but in the relentless forge of sacrifice. Archon Tarsus stood upon a mound of shattered stone, his silhouette stark against the shattered horizon, a figure sculpted from unyielding will and burning loyalty. His eyes, hidden behind the cold gleam of his helm, burned with a light forged in torment and tempered by unbreakable resolve. The silence that enveloped him was not peace, but the pregnant pause before an eternal pledge, a call to arms, spoken without sound, echoing deep within the hearts of all who still bore the Emperor's mark. The serpent's venom ran deep through the veins of our kin, he intoned, voice resonant as the cry of 1,000 battle horns. But from those poisoned roots rises the crucible of our redemption. The flame of the Emperor is not a fire that consumes lightly. It is a forge that tempers, a light that endures beyond shadow and despair. We are the eternal flame, the unbroken oath sworn in blood and iron, guardians of a sacred truth that no heresy can silence. Around him, the acolytes knelt, their armor scratched and worn, imbued with the silent prayers of countless fallen. They were the living remnants of a shattered brotherhood, bound not by fleeting glory, but by the unyielding bond of duty and sacrifice. Each scar told a story of endurance. Each breath was a hymn of unwavering faith. Together, they formed a wall of resolve against the creeping darkness, the last bastion of hope in an age besieged by gods false and cruel. The serpent's venom ran deep through the veins of our kin, he intoned, voice resonant as the cry of 1,000 battle horns. But from those poisoned roots rises the crucible of our redemption. The flame of the Emperor is not a fire that consumes lightly. It is a forge that tempers, a light that endures beyond shadow and despair. We are the eternal flame, the unbroken oath sworn in blood and iron, guardians of a sacred truth that no heresy can silence. Around him, the acolytes knelt, their armor scratched and worn, imbued with the silent prayers of countless fallen. They were the living remnants of a shattered brotherhood, bound not by fleeting glory, but by the unyielding bond of duty and sacrifice. Each scar told a story of endurance. Each breath was a hymn of unwavering faith. Together, they formed a wall of resolve against the creeping darkness, the last bastion of hope in an age besieged by gods, false and cruel. The ground beneath their feet was a graveyard of legends, once proud legions, broken and betrayed, their names whispered now only in mourning and remembrance. Yet the sacrifice sowed in this blessed field was not in vain. For every fallen warrior, every shattered banner was a beacon calling out across the universe, a defiant testament that the Imperium's heart still beat, fierce and untamed. Far beyond the scars of this world, the traitorous legions dwindled into shadow, their madness scattered among the stars like venom cast to the winds. They were fallen angels, twisted reflections of humanity's might, bound forever to the darkness they chose, a darkness that would never claim the light they sought to extinguish. In that boundless night, the Serpent Lodge stood unbowed, a silent, unrelenting force against the tide of corruption. Their mission was eternal, a path walked by the faithful who cherished neither fame nor life, but a sacred vow to seek out the serpent's coil wherever it slithered, to sever it with righteous fury, and to kindle anew the imperishable flame of loyalty. For the war against the false gods was not a battle of flesh and steel alone, but a war of souls waged across the stars. A slow, unending reckoning where the cost was not only measured in lives, but in the very essence of humanity's spirit. And within this eternal struggle, there could be no surrender, only the unwavering stand against the darkness, a stand made by those whose faith was as unbreakable as the Emperor's own will, as the first light of a distant sun pierced the horizon, spilling gold upon the blood-soaked soil. A whisper spread amongst the survivors, a promise carried on the sacred winds, that no matter the cruelty of the serpent's bite, no matter the shadows cast by betrayal and despair, the Emperor's light would endure. It was the everlasting flame, the spark that gave life to legends and hope to the hopeless, that would guide humanity through the long night until the dawn of all things. And so, in the quiet that followed, beneath the endless watch of cold stars and the silent gaze of eternity, the saga of the false gods found its final rest, not in triumphant blaze, but in the eternal glow of sacrifice and faith. The serpent's coil had been broken, its venom stemmed by the blade of loyalty and the fire of undying will. And in that unyielding light, the Imperium held its breath and whispered one truth above all else, that though the night is endless, The Emperor's light endures beyond the reach of shadow, eternal and unbroken, a beacon against the darkness for all time. The war is eternal, the faith unyielding, and the flame everlasting. Thus ends this chapter, a solemn hymn to honor, sacrifice, and the unquenchable light of the Emperor. The tale of the false gods is sealed in silence. But the eternal war marches onward, and the Serpent Lodge remains, ever watchful, ever vigilant, forever the Emperor's blade in the darkness.